In this video, we are joined by the one, the only Shaun ranking the mouse. We are talking about Tiana's. We are talking about Universal. We're talking about Disneyland closing Frontierland and parts of New Orleans. We have a lot to discuss today. Up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. I got Ranking the Mouse and I got the Italiano with me today, talking all kinds of topics. But before we get started, the Italiano, welcome back, my friends.
Thanks for having me back on, and it's always a good time talking Disney news and Disney announcements and all that good jazz. And glad to be back on with Shaun, Mr. Ranking the Mouse. It's been a long time, and yeah, it's gonna be a great show.
Absolutely. If you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. There we go. We got Ranking the Mouse here. Now, Shaun, if we were ranking the sexy, you'd be number one, brother. You'd be absolutely number one.
I'm impressed by that, but I'm just trying to show as much chest skin as I can right now. But you have me beat. You have the whole button down, and I can't get that beat right there.
You know what I'm saying? And usually it's George who's showing all the chest, and surprisingly, I'm the one today.
Yeah,
you know?
Surprisingly, yeah, you're honing into the Italiano. Usually, I go down to the navel.
He does. So, Shaun, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ranking the mouse everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And you guys definitely want to make sure you follow Italiano because he just had a couple weeks ago the Twitter photos with the Italiano on his shirt. So it was a fantastic photo, Twitter exclusive. So make sure you follow both of us on there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna check out this new video from Imagineering of all about Tiana's. And Shaun, you don't want spoilers, so you're going to focus your eyes, but we can still talk Tiana in general. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. There it is. So we can still talk Tiana's, and George, you and I can kind of discuss what we see, basically, right, without getting too descriptive. But let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, here we go. So we're going to play a little bit, stop along the way, talk about it, usual thing. Actually, before we do that, Shaun, before I actually play it, what are your thoughts on the? Because I haven't had you on the show actually for a few years now. What are your thoughts on the retheme and Tiana's? Are you cautiously optimistic? Are you nervous, or like where do you stand with it?
I'm pretty dang excited, man. I've been waiting for this for a while, so I'm really pumped. I think that Splash Mountain had the bones of one of the best attractions in the world. So you add an IP that people care about. I mean, the Splash characters everyone cared about as well, but that took time to grow. So I think adding characters right away that people will love onto what are the bones of already an incredible attraction, I think is going to be great. I'm more excited for it at Florida because I like their Splash Mountain better than Disneyland's. I was always confused by Disneyland's story, and I don't like getting soaked, and I don't like the single log. So I'm more excited for it at Disneyland, even though it doesn't make as much thematic sense out there. But overall, yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for sure.
Yeah, actually, and the more I see of this attraction, this retheme, the more excited I get. I mean, this is a difficult task. Splash Mountain is a very popular attraction. It had music people really liked and everything, and so I don't envy what the Imagineers had to do here. And the little that we have seen has been really, really good. So I'm very optimistic as well. George, any initial thoughts before we dive into the video, sir?
Definitely very optimistic. I was quite hesitant, really, like on the back of the announcement, wondering, okay, you're going to take this beloved classic Disney attraction and turn it into Princess and the Frog. You have to make it great. And how can you make it great? And we weren't really getting a whole lot out of it. And then they dropped with the audio animatronics look like, and they look absolutely phenomenal. My favorite one is Mama Odie. I loved how they basically took the animated characters and literally brought them to life. That's how realistic they look. So, and then kind of tying into what we got to see today with the release of the second episode of We Call It Imagineering, and just tying everything together, we got like little bits and pieces of what the overall attraction looks like, but I'm very happy and satisfied, I think, of what we're getting. And I think, honestly, this ride is going to be phenomenal at night.
Oh, absolutely incredible.
Agreed with nighttime. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. And one of my favorite parts of Pirates of the Caribbean is actually that first scene that at Disneyland, that first scene where it's kind of slow and you're just kind of going through the bayou and you hear like the little crickets and you see the fireflies. And I can just imagine like that on a big scale, like with this. It's going to be absolutely incredible. But let's go ahead and dive into the video, and we'll kind of talk about it. And it's only about 1 minute and 20 seconds, the part that showcases Tiana. So, all right, here we go. Let's rock and roll.
You on this journey because you're flat. That's what we did good. Spice makes us complete. One more time.
Man, she looks so good, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What are people expecting when they get to this end section for that final scene?
We knew we wanted a celebration. We knew that we wanted something that will welcome people in.
So you have to, I guess, honor
what's been there and also introduce something new and fresh to it. You have to get lyrics that speak to everyone and speak the right way. So it was a fun process for me as a songwriter. Wow. I wrote that song. Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
Man. It's amazing.
Yeah. She's amazing.
Celebration, you don't need it.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, Shaun. So you're good now. You're good. It was only about a minute or so. I was really impressed by this, the little that we saw in this video. Number one, the song is an absolute banger. That is super catchy. That was one of the things I was kind of worried about going into this attraction. Like, how are you going to beat the soundtrack? You know what I'm saying? Now, Shaun, I know it was kind of almost impossible unless you took your earbuds out, but did you hear the song?
Yeah, I heard the song. Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's super catchy. From the rumors that I was hearing, PJ Morton wrote like 6 or 7 tracks and basically whittled it down to like 1 or 2 of the best. And this is what they came up with. So, and PJ Morton's super talented. So yeah, I think it's fantastic. And like you said, OG, they have an insanely high bar to try and clear with. I mean, I don't think you can clear the Splash Mountain soundtrack. That was probably the number one best thing about the whole ride. But yeah, so they have a high bar to clear. And especially since they can't use the song going up the lift hill, Dr. Facilier's song, that would have been absolutely perfect for that scene. So not being able to use that, they really have a high bar to clear. But from everything we've seen so far musically, they're getting there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. PJ Morton, I'm not really honestly familiar with a lot of his music, but
really quick, Shaun, you said that they're getting there. I think you mean that they're almost there.
Well played, George.
There we go.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not really familiar too much with PJ Morton's music, but I was watching this today and I'm like, this song is really, really good. I'm like, I made a tweet actually saying like, can we have him write more original songs for the parks?
Yeah.
Like, cause that's just incredible. What are your thoughts, George?
I thought it's a really fun, uptune, catchy, kind of song. And I think it kind of, screams that vibe of like, going down into New Orleans, like for Mardi Gras. It has that kind of quality that you want to have like during like a Mardi Gras party. And when I first heard it and I rewound the video back, it kind of throws off a little bit of like, what's that?
Rewound? How old are you, George? Is this like a VHS tape or what?
Yeah, just
rewound. Tape over it, yeah.
Just watch the film, just circle back. It kind of like gave me like those like those commercial jingle songs that have like that catchy, like that spearmint song and kind of
Right.
like it kind of threw that off to me. So I wonder if that was the goal, because this is all about promoting Tiana's foods.
Right.
So it's almost like, what if like that's part of the storyline, that Tiana kind of created her own little jingle for her own her restaurant, her foods.
It is very reminiscent of like the old school, like the early television commercials, right? That those like really catchy little jingles for like, you know, I don't know, like orange juice and things like that. So yeah, you're right. It's very catchy. Like
Staying on brand with that, the orange juice.
Exactly, bro.
Hey.
You got it, dude. You got it, you know. But yeah, very cool. Now, George, with the visuals,
Yes.
the finale scene, thoughts on that? Which I'm surprised they even showed that, to be honest with you. But
I'm actually really surprised, to be honest with you, being that the previews are just a couple weeks away.
Right.
Actually, even starting with the cast member previews, that's going to happen
like
even
5 days
sooner.
away.
Yeah. I thought they looked great. I think it's very vibrant. I don't think that it takes away from the notion of how like the finale scene was in Splash Mountain. Because for that final scene, they always had it like upbeat. It had it very colorful with the lights and the characters and everything. I thought they did very well for what they have based off of like the IP of The Princess and the Frog. And for me, I enjoy audio animatronics, but I also feel like you don't need to have 20 or 30 of them in one room for it to still tell a great story.
no, I would agree with you. I think, well, when you know, this isn't the late 80s anymore, so we have a lot of tools in our toolbox now. We have projection technologies, you know, mapping, all that stuff. So why not utilize that stuff, you know? And they do utilize that in this, but like that scene in particular, though, it does. I don't feel cheated at all, though, in terms of animatronics. It seems very busy, even with that element of it, you know. And that banger song, I mean, it's well done. It's really well done. Now, Shaun, I want to ask you a question, because we were supposed to get this video at like 10 a.m. today.
Right.
And then we didn't get it, right? They even had like a countdown and everything, and it didn't happen. And then they ended up dropping it like at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yep.
I was talking to this guy on the phone earlier, and I was saying, I wonder if they kind of changed their plan with how much they were going to release on this video, because I know you didn't see it, but like they gave us a lot. It's a very spoiler heavy. I wonder if the few images that we got yesterday, they felt like the fan reaction was kind of lackluster. Maybe they had to go in there today and was like, you know, we should add more footage to really give a better impression, and that's why it was late. Do you think that's a decent theory, or do you think it was something totally different?
Yeah, that could potentially be the case. There's rumors on Twitter that they like didn't have the copyright to some of the songs, but I don't know how they wouldn't, because they're working with Anika Rose and PJ Morton. So I don't know what the truth is. That could be it. I'm shocked that they went directly into just showing the final scene without any like warning or without any build up at all. So that kind of lends credence to your point that maybe they were just trying to get people impressed, you know. But who knows? This has been a whole mess with Splash Mountain, or with Tiana, since the start, with, you know, the opening date being pushed back like 5 different times of when they're going to announce it, and then they're announcing it during American Idol, and it got released early. So clearly the media PR team is not on the same page with the Imagineers in this project.
Yeah, and I've been really critical too for a while now, because I felt like they just kept focusing on the research trips, which, look, that's a part of the equation. You want to get it, you want that authenticity. I think it's very important. But it was like video after video after video was just about that for the longest time, right? It's like, I want to see the attraction. Give me something, right? And now we're starting to finally see stuff, you know, of the actual attraction. So that's good. But you're right. It's been a mess with this whole thing. The way they've marketed this thing since the beginning has not been great. There's been a lot of missteps, like you said, with the American Idol thing as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I do think that, to George's earlier point, once they released the video of the animatronics, which was on the first episode of the Imagineering YouTube channel, I think that was kind of the like moment where everyone was like, all right, here we go. Like that was the big moment of like, this is what we're getting. Before then, like you said, OG, it was a lot of just speculation and no one knew what we were getting. So ever since then, and that video wasn't released that long ago, a couple weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago maybe. So I think that was when it finally started like pushing everyone's excitement levels high, and that was pretty recently. So they definitely got some work to do in terms of building up the excitement again.
Yeah, and I know, Shaun, you've been kind of avoiding spoilers and stuff. Did you? Because I know it's hard on Twitter not to sometimes see stuff on your timeline. Did you see some of those animatronics by chance?
Yeah, so I did end up watching the first video just because I feel like, I mean, the animatronics, that's a spoiler for sure, but once they're in their environment, it'll be completely different. So I did watch that video and I was completely blown away. That was, those animatronics are incredible that we're getting.
Yeah.
And also, too, even Imagineering had mentioned in that episode that what we were watching, the animatronics weren't even up to full capacity on their movement. So you only got a little taste of the testing process. So yeah, you'll definitely get to see like them in full action once you're in that log.
That's a great point. Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Now, okay, so this is a perfect kind of segue because this attraction has garnered a lot of attention, in the fandom, right? And the fandom is like, I don't even really want to say split, but there's just a lot of emotions going on with this ride, right? It's kind of like the epicenter of like the culture war, the whole thing now. So with that said, Shaun, I'll start with you. Like with the fandom itself, like the theme park community, because you've been in the community a long time as well. Do you think it's gotten like uglier in recent years in terms of like being toxic and sort of like just more people are like at each other's throats now, or is it kind of the same old? It just seems worse because there's more social media. Like, where do you stand with the fandom and the discourse out there online?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like the peak of the kind of vitriol and hatred was like 2021, late 2020, 2021. It's still really bad now, but I don't think it's quite as bad as it used to be. And I feel like that might just be a reflection on societies in general. With the election and with everything going on, 2020, 2021 with COVID and everything was like the peak of just hatred between everybody. So I feel like it's died down a little bit since then. But I mean, if you compare it to like 2018, 2019, it was very, very innocent back then. So kind of missed those days a little bit. But yeah, I'm hoping that once Tiana opens, that's going to die down because this was probably one of the most heated things Disney could do. Obviously, some of the other things they could do that would be pretty heated would be like trying to take Walt out of it. And I know, OG, that's a big conversation we used to have. It seems like they're not going that route. It seems like they're leaning into Walt heavily. So I think once Tiana's opens, I think a lot of the vitriol is going to die down. Maybe that's just optimistic thinking, but it doesn't seem like there's anything too controversial after this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that, 2020, 2021 was definitely like the peak of it. I mean, at Diz Twitter, there was a person getting canceled once a week during that time.
Yeah. I mean, the drama on Diz Twitter has been juicy lately, but it's not tied to Tiana. That's for sure.
Right. That's true. That is very, very true. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think that this stuff has gotten a lot more because of the culture war and stuff. It's gotten even uglier because now you're kind of weaving in politics and all that stuff to it. So you have this other element to it. But I agree with you. I think in terms of Tiana's, like what we see on social media today after this clip, majority of it is very, very optimistic. I mean, people are like praising this thing. I mean, you're going to have the diehard Save Splash Mountain people that they decided 4 years ago they don't like it. So, I mean, some of those people will never come around. And that's fine.
Please, on June 28th, when it actually opens in Walt Disney World, they'll say there's still time. We could still save it.
It's still savable at Disneyland.
It's still savable. So,
I think there's a flip side to that too. There are some people on Twitter too that are. I mean, it's clear that they're going to be absolutely praising this no matter what happens. So yeah, I just think we need a general, we need to just be real on the attraction. Is it good or not? Like that's going to determine if this was a good move or not. Is it a quality attraction? If the attraction sucks, it doesn't matter that, that they change it. It's going to be sucky. And if it's amazing, then who cares that Splash is gone? Like it's an amazing attraction. So it just depends on how good the attraction ends up being.
That's a great point, Shaun. You're right, because it is a little. It's both, right? You have the people that are like it sucks. They could write the review today before they even ride it. It's going to be basically the same outcome, right? But then you have people on the other side of that coin, other side of the equation, where it's like they're going to write. They might as well write their review today because it's going to be amazing, best thing ever anyway, right? So it's best to look at this stuff with, like an honest eye and just be like, hey, look, you know what? This works. This doesn't. Like for me, the inside of this attraction, what I've seen is way more impressive than the outside. I like the outside. I don't love it. It's not as, I think it lacks the, what's the word for it? I think the old design on the outside had a little bit more of an eye-catching appeal to it. This one is sort of more blended in. And maybe
during the day, I agree. But at night, I think the outside facade could be incredible.
That's true. They're kind of going like that whole Pandora thing with the lighting and the blue and the purple. It's kind of dope looking at night. What
Can
do
we
you
even
think?
say that anymore? Because we don't even get that because Animal Kingdom closes
Yeah, what's
before
Pandora at night? I've never heard of that. What are you talking about?
You know, Shaun, I was talking. We did a video the other day on this whole thing about Pandora coming to Disneyland, right? That's going to be a banger here in California because DCA, if it goes into DCA, that's the rumor. But our park doesn't close at 6 o'clock.
Right.
We're gonna get that nighttime Pandora, brother.
That's a really good point. And these are the things you miss out on when you haven't been on YouTube in a year and you're not watching the OG videos. Because I have not seen that point brought up on Twitter yet. That is a really good point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be going to be pretty amazing. So yeah, we'll see.
Awesome.
But yeah, what about you, George? Fandom? What do you think, man? Is it toxic? Is it all glitter and rainbows? Is it where do we stand with the fandom, brother?
I don't know about either one of those, but I mean, I definitely say it's a straight pain in my ass. But no, I think me personally, and I know there's like different kind of what you could say like groupies like that are on social media, like of what identifies you as a quote unquote a shill, a pixie duster, a Disney adult, or whatever like terminology that these people use nowadays. But I personally feel, and I'm not saying nothing wrong of this notion because you guys know me, like I'm practically a California local without being a California local. Like I'm out there like every few weeks, you know, but I feel like that the people that go constantly, like every single day, like,
or even weekly,
like
maybe?
weekly and everything, I feel like it could be a positive thing, but I think it could also be somewhat of a negative thing because when you go so much and you see the same thing day in and day out, you're going to notice things that no normie person would notice into the naked eye. It's
Right.
because they would say, oh, okay, well, this wasn't here yesterday, so why is it here now? Or, oh, last week that was working. It's
Right.
because, and that's not even just with Disney. That's if you go anywhere multiple times a week, 7 days a week, what have you. I feel like that when a normie or a person that comes maybe like every few months or maybe 2 or 3 times a year, it just takes you back into that moment where it's like you just want you're there, you want to utilize your time, you want to enjoy it. When you kind of use that as your non-escapism and you're just there just to be there for the sake of being there, you're going to end up, unfortunately, finding stuff. And when you go and you have to keep on reporting it and saying it, and it's like, then it just comes off negative and people don't want to hear that.
Well, the thing is that yeah, you're right. And the thing is it's kind of like okay, I like cheesecake, right? But if I had cheesecake like twice a day, it's not gonna be the same dopamine hit, you know what I'm saying, as it would be if I had it as a treat maybe once every couple of weeks. So I think that's what's happening with a lot of these locals or people who visit all the time, like daily, weekly, like you were saying, George. It's like they're going all the time and they're not feeling the magic like they were like 100 visits ago. And it's like, why am I not happy? I should be happy. I was happy before, because you're becoming desensitized to it. And then you kind of become a little jaded sometimes and like, oh man, I don't feel the same. So it's kind of like Disney's fault. And there's a lot of that going on. So I would agree. You can go too much. And I'm not super close to the parks, but I'm also not super far. Like I'm like 45 to an hour. But I try to limit my time there. Like once every couple months, maybe, because I don't want to get to that point where I'm like kind of like it becomes like going to the mall, and it's like you become so desensitized to it where it's almost like not a special thing anymore, and that's when you kind of get into some trouble. Go ahead.
That's where I was, contemplating, where I was asking all of you, when I talk to you guys in the DMs or on the phone, it's like I'm contemplating. I don't even know if I want to renew my Magic Key, not because I don't want it, but I want to be able to do and explore other things even within the company. Like I want to do more Disney cruises. I want to eventually go to Tokyo Disneyland. And it's like, if I renew my Magic Key, I'm then married in a sense for a whole year to try to utilize my key as much as possible. But it's like, I'd rather go out and explore other things. And then I could always come back and renew my key at not renew, but buy another key at another time. Hopefully they just keep them online. and not keep on like turning that on and off switch.
Right. Put it back in the vault, right?
Yeah.
In classic JPEG style. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I think the temperature in the room, I think to Shaun's point, is coming down a little bit.
It definitely came down. I think for me, 2021, 2022. I think a little bit was in 2020, but I think everyone was kind of like on the verge of not knowing really what the hell was going on, like trying to figure like how are we going to get out of this. We just had a all bunkered on, and I don't really think I think that was the boiling point. And then when things started slowly, gradually opening up, people basically kind of had to reset themselves of how to deal with like going on, being socially active again, like physically socially active. And I think 21, 22, I think was like the peak of like that, like those tensions.
Yeah, absolutely.
People lost their social skills, number one. And number two, when everything's on social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, that's just not real life. So you can have whatever interaction you have with someone and think that they're the worst human being ever. But I guarantee you, if you went and hung out with them in person, you'd probably have a great time. I mean, not always, but odds are that you're going to have a good time. So, yeah, it's just social media sucks like that. Honestly, for me, I feel like it all started like healing the second that the indoor Carl's Jr. restaurants opened up. Like once George was able to go inside a Carl's Jr. again, the world was kind of
life was all good again. That was
this guy actually got this last time he was down here, like last month. Mm-hmm. He stayed at the Queen's Inn because it's next to the Queen's Inn, right?
Is that the one by the convention center, George? Like behind it?
Behind it, yeah.
It's hilarious.
Literally, it's like I just like walk by, like leave my hotel, past the gas station, boom, there's my Carl's Jr.
The real reason George doesn't want to renew his Magic Key so he can explore other places, so he can explore other Carl's Jr.'s and Hardee's.
Exactly. Well, they got some, you know what, Shaun? They got some weird shit out there in PA, man. Like he was telling me, they had all kinds of weird restaurants and stuff that we don't even have out here.
You need to make your way over to the best coast, George. Come on.
Yeah. Come on, George.
I got to. Yep.
Come on. Absolutely. So speaking of best coast, let's go ahead and dive into our next topic. This is from the one and only Scott Gooston. Scott is the absolute GOAT. He is the Diz Twitter, he's always breaking the news stories. And I like his tweets. They're very concise and to the point. But he says here, Disneyland shared updates to construction in New Orleans Square in Critter Country. On July 8th, Hungry Bear Restaurant will close for refurb. The Davy Crockett canoes will be temporary close. And the bridge from New Orleans Square to Galaxy's Edge will temporary close. Shaun, this is crazy. This is going to be quite a thing in the middle of summer. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man, this is brutal. This is really brutal. I think what goes understated, because everyone talks about, man, it sucks, you're going to be down 3 or 4 rides. Down those restaurants and down the restrooms and the walkways, that's almost just as big of a deal because that eats people. You have so many people that just go hang out there down by the water, go hang out at Hungry Bear, go use those restrooms, go use that walking path. Not having that whole area is going to be brutal. I'm almost wondering if Disney is banking on like such low crowds this summer that they're going to be okay with it, because they've already been releasing these crazy discounts, like $89 a day, $50 a day for kids, like discounts we haven't seen since pre-COVID. So I'm kind of wondering if they're just banking on super low crowds and just thinking, let's rip off the Band-Aid and get it done as quick as we can. But I mean, if we see a surge of crowds this summer with all this stuff down, it could be a shit show for sure.
Well, it's funny you say that, Shaun, because I was just on the Disneyland website the other night, and a lot of the June weekends for like the Magic Keys were completely sold out. Like they were completely gone. You couldn't make no park reservations. And then just for kicks, I jump on it last night, and the whole month of June is opened.
So weird.
So, and it's like, I've never seen that before. So did they add more openings for capacity based off of what you just said? Are they anticipating maybe not having so many day tickets sold? So it's like, okay, we'll open more slots up for Magic Key holders. Because, yeah, that is very true, especially in the peak of summer when people, take vacations and everything. You close down those walkways, the restaurants, the restrooms, especially Hungry Bear, because when I come out in August, like, what the hell am I going to do? Because I want my honey spice chicken sandwich, and it's like,
right? Yeah, exactly. See, Disney's in a real rock. Disney's really between a rock and a hard place with this thing, because a lot of most of this is likely all of it probably is because of the Tiana's construction.
Right.
So it's like, what do you do, right? So do you slow down the
and the
Tiana's
haunted mansion in construction too?
Exactly. You're right. And the Haunted Mansion construction as well. So it's like, what do you do? Do you slow those projects down to kind of open things up a little bit just for the summer? But then you push back the opening dates. You kind of piss off the fandom that way, right? Because you're like, oh, why is it taking so long? But when you go through and you just chug along through summer, now it's a huge inconvenience that massive area of the park that's so popular is now shut down. And that causes all kinds of congestion problems. And to your point, Shaun, restaurants, we're already low on the restaurant count in Disneyland, and now you're going to close Hungry Bear. That's going to be
especially since it's a quick service restaurant. A lot of times, you can't necessarily get a reservation at Blue Bayou. You have to be, and especially at Lamplight Lounge, you have to be like on your A game, to get those reservations. So yeah, you knock out a quick service restaurant. That's pretty bad. Now,
the thing that worries me too is you have Fantasmic that just came back and is bringing insane crowds to that area, and you're gonna have a complete dead end with Rise of the Resistance. Dead end. That's a deep dead end. You have to go all the way through basically the Frontierland side just to get all the way back to Rise. If you're over at like Pirates, that is a mob of a walk. So yeah, it's just a bummer. I hope it's only a couple months or even less, but it's gonna be a headache.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be. Oh, I didn't even think about that element, Shaun. That's a great point. This Fantasmic thing is going to be. Oh my God, bro. Now, speaking of Fantasmic, though, before we move on to our next topic, what are your thoughts? Have you seen? I know you're not a spoiler guy, but have you seen any of the new stuff that they kind of incorporated, like the ending and all that? Or
no, I haven't, and not even because I was fully trying to avoid it, because I feel like it's a pretty similar show. I just haven't really seen that much content from it. I don't really watch too much like in-park vloggers, so. Unless it gets thrown up on Twitter or thrown up by Disney, I don't really watch it. So no, I haven't seen it. But I'm just happy the show's back. But I definitely think it's a downgrade from what we had before.
Yeah, it is. And from what we're hearing, we are getting the dragon back, but it's going to be like another year or two. So now we're going to get this kind of like this B mode alternative for a little while. And basically it's just Maleficent on a stick, and she's shooting her little proton lasers at Mickey, or whatever. I don't know.
But I will say that's where I don't have a problem with it, because it's exactly what you said.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. We are getting the dragon back. Now, if someone said that this was going to be the permanent Fantasmic and we're never getting back a dragon, then I would be having some issues. Then it's like, okay, then you got to give us a bigger, spectacular ending here. But being that we are going to get the dragon back at some point, I have no problem with this. As Shaun said, I'm just glad to see Fantasmic back. I missed it. It felt like that area was like a little bit lackluster, knowing that as night falls, we weren't going to get Fantasmic. So
if we don't get... Oh, go ahead, Shaun. I'm sorry.
I was just really quick. That is kind of, if I do have a qualm about it, that is my qualm, though, to George's point, is why did it take so... it's May 28th. Like, if you're just going back to the B mode that you already had set up, I understand you have to retrain people on Peter Pan, but that's a voluntary decision you made. Why couldn't this have been released in like February after they cleaned up, or even end of last year after they got everything cleaned up with the dragon? The fact that they didn't give us anything special at all, in a year it'll be fine, but it just kind of feels weird right now that it took so long and they just went to B mode.
Do you think some of that might have been like the investigation and all that, the OSHA red tape maybe that kind of delayed a lot of that too?
Yeah, absolutely could have, and that's, we can complain as fans, or I can complain as a fan, and we never know the truth. But if that's not the case, it's a bad look. Like let's hope that is the case, because if not, what do we? Disney kind of promised something new. We knew that the dragon wasn't coming back, but Disney kind of promised like, hey, we're going to give you something else, and to just give us what we've seen for in B mode for years is, I felt pretty underwhelming. Obviously, in like 6 months, it won't matter, and I'm just happy it's back. But it feels weird, like we could have had this back a couple months ago.
Do you think Disney, like in their own in their own mind, they thought, you know what, we'll take the pirate sequence out, we'll bring back Peter Pan, and fans wouldn't even focus on that it's going to be the B mode because, you know, we got Peter Pan back, which I am very glad we got Peter Pan back.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Whoa. Shaun, what's going on?
Okay, we got to talk about this.
I don't want to get Orange Grove canceled here, so you know maybe I should keep the thoughts to myself.
Oh
No, I
You go.
thematically Peter Pan fits 100 times better, but man, that pirate scene, nah, bro, 100 just chills. Nothing will beat seeing the freaking Black Pearl on the rivers of America with that music. I understand the dialogue was clunky. I understand it's not an animated part, and the rest of Fantasmic's animated. I do not give an SHIT. That was one of the greatest scenes in any show. I don't care that it didn't fit. And I honestly, I'm with George. I think they just brought back Peter Pan to be like, hey, we brought you something else. Like, even if it is a better scene, it just feels forced and like, but nah, pirate scene, Peter Pan scene, whatever. It's good. I'm not
okay.
hating on
You know what? I will accept that just to the fact of that you said that the dialogue was clunky. That was enough for me.
No, that I can.
I don't watch Fantasmic for the dialogue. I watch it for the visuals.
But I will say though, the visuals for the pirates, I thought was really good.
Yeah,
of how they transformed that ship and everything that they did. I mean, as I said, I still like the Peter Pan. I guess it's just that nostalgic side to me. But yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is, and I think I think that Disney kind of has like, I think Disney kind of thinks for the fans and the fans think for Disney. In that sense, and then their paths cross, and it's like those red wires and blue wires that just don't go together.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. And to your point, Shaun, they did promise us new stuff for the return of Fantasmic. I think they even used the term new magic, right, or something to that effect. So I've seen it. I didn't see a lot of new magic, to be quite honest. It was
you saw it live.
No. I saw videos of it. Yeah, I haven't been to the park since then. But yeah, I mean, it didn't look like new magic to me. It looked like a lot of the older, like the Peter Pan thing is old, obviously, you know, and even that new end scene with Maleficent.
The only
Mickey.
thing that I could think of that would be considered as new magic was with the battle between Mickey and Maleficent was the extra pyro that they used, like when she used her staff. That would probably be the only thing that was different. But I can't say.
There's a Rancho del Zocalo dining package. That's the extra magic.
There it is. Exactly. Upcharge magic, you know. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So now our next topic, we're going to Florida. So the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which is like the worst name ever. Details released for a development agreement between Tourism Oversight District and Walt Disney World. So this is interesting here. So it says here, give me one second. I do apologize. Okay, following our report this morning, this is courtesy, by the way, of Blog Mickey. Following our report this morning about an agreement between the Tourism Oversight District and Walt Disney World, more details are now available. So basically, this board, DeSantis board, whatever you want to call it, came to a deal with Walt Disney World about the next 10 years of hotel development and theme park. Now, it is kind of funny. I was talking to George about this in a video the other day with Slimer, how when DeSantis drops out of the presidency, suddenly there's all this deal making going on. It just things seem to work out suddenly, right? Now, it's almost like the whole point of the drama before was running for president, but it's probably not the case. I'm sure that was a coincidence.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, totally, right? But it says here the proposed development agreement calls for an investment of $17 billion from Walt Disney World over the next 10 to 20 years. Disney is required to invest at least $8 billion within the first 10 years of the agreement. Kind of reminds me a little bit, actually, of the deal they had with Anaheim with that the first 10 years and all that with the Disneyland Florida stuff. But George, what are your thoughts on this?
So, despite of everything that went on, you know, between the state of Florida politics and Walt Disney World, I'm just glad that that's over. I'm glad, even if there is some tensions behind the scenes, I don't care. As long as they can come to some form of agreement. And this is a much positive note for Walt Disney World, because quite frankly, I think the resort was taking a burden and a hit from everything that's been going on in Florida. So now it would be nice to see it kind of revitalized and start getting things approved and moving forward, because that's what Walt was all about, is you keep moving forward, and as far as the 17 billion, that's what the number that Iger had mentioned when they were kind of talking through the whole process with the oversight district and what have you. I do find it interesting, sort of like what you said, OG, kind of like the deal that they are doing with California, that they are required to spend X amount for the first 10 years and the remaining for the next 10 years. Now, my question, and actually, Shaun, maybe because I was actually talking to OG before the show, is this 17 billion incorporated in the 60 billion for the entire parks division? Because when I broke it down, they said it was going to be 30% going into the expansion of the parks, which would be 30 billion. But if you take the 17 billion off of the 30, that's only going to leave you 13 billion. Or is the 17 billion something completely separate than what's going on with the 60?
Yeah, from my understanding, the 60 was a promise from Disney, and this 17 is just the agreement with, I was going to say RCID. It's not RCID anymore. The Central Tourism Florida something district. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure, George. That's a good question. But I think my understanding was the 60 was a promise from Disney, whereas this was an agreement with the RCID, whatever, the board.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was like something completely kind of separate, because that way Walt Disney World can kind of have their funds of doing what they're doing, and then the 60 billion can be dispersed with Disneyland and Disneyland Paris and the cruise line and what have you. Yeah,
it's kind of nice to have these set numbers, because when we were hearing 60 bill, it's like, okay, well, how much is all of that just going to go to IT and infrastructure? So it's kind of nice to know, okay, well, 17 mil is going to actually go to like the Disney World Resort, and we're gonna have this much going for Disneyland Forward and this much to DCL. So I like that we're getting these numbers, set numbers, so we know how much is going on. I hope we keep getting more.
Yeah, it's always good to see the domestic parks get some love, right? The Asian parks are getting all the love lately with Tokyo. I know they pay for their own stuff, but Tokyo is getting a ton of love. Hong Kong, Shanghai, it's good to see Anaheim and Florida getting some love. And this is good news. I'm not the biggest DeSantis fan. You would even say maybe I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I kind of am a DeSantis hater. I just, that whole thing was so unnecessary that, but this is a good thing. This is good. It's good that, Disney and this new board, they're working together to get things done. It's good for Walt Disney World. It's good for fans. So it's a positive thing overall. It was about time. That was like the longest, 18 months or something like that. It creates such a cloud over the resort, over Walt Disney World for the longest time.
Florida in general, I mean, it was such an ordeal for taxpayers not knowing what they're going to have to pay and what they weren't. Is there going to be restrictions on like tourism now in terms of people not going to Disney World as much? In terms of, at one point, Iger was saying that they're not even going to invest as much anymore in Orlando. So yeah, I'm like you said, OJ, I'm glad the whole ordeal is over. It was a loss for everybody, but maybe Universal. Like, it was a loss for like SeaWorld and the smaller parks that rely on Disney. It was a loss for Disney, a loss for the Florida government. It made everybody look bad.
Yeah, no, well said. Now, before we dive into our next topic though, what are your thoughts? Because it's been a long time since we had you on, brother. What are your thoughts on Epic Universe and the impact that it might have in the Orlando theme park market? Is it gonna be like are they going to drop a nuke basically, and this thing is going to change the game, or is it going to be more incremental? With the how is Epic Universe going to impact the whole area?
Man, first you asked the Tiana question, now you ask this. You're trying to make it spicy today, OG. You're trying to get me in trouble here.
You know what I'm saying? I know. The Universal fans, they're watching, bro.
The Unibros are watching. The Unibros are always watching, and the Disney shills are always watching. There's always two sides of the coin. No, in terms of effect on Orlando as a whole, I don't really know. I mean, I kind of buy both arguments. I buy the argument that people only have so much time to vacation, and that's going to take a part. But I also buy there are 7 billion people on this planet. There is billions that are affluent enough to travel to Orlando. And I think that industry is just not tapped out yet. So I kind of see both sides, that it will definitely pull from Disney, especially the first year or so. But long term, I don't really think this affects Disney. I would say it probably helps them. It's just going to light a fire under their ass more. So I view it as a win-win, but I'm kind of biased because I'm a fan of both, and I just want more competition. But I definitely don't think it's a bad thing for anybody. Competition has never been a bad thing. Monopolies are, monopolies are what kill creation. Competition enlightens creation. So I don't see how it's going to be a bad thing in any way, but maybe I'm missing something.
Well, no, yeah, you're onto something actually with that, Shaun, because if you look at, we kind of have like a little, what would you say, like a beta test almost, right, out here in California, because we have a small piece, albeit, but a small piece of Epic Universe that already opened here in California with Super Nintendo World. Yeah. And it opened, and Disneyland is still doing really well. You know what I'm saying? Like all those earnings calls and stuff, Disneyland's numbers are still doing really well. And, it's good business. And even outperforming Disney World in a lot of ways, maybe not total number, but in, the growth and all that. But so it didn't decimate Disneyland in any way. And it probably helped Disneyland a lot because, when tourists come over, from out of state, out of country to go check out Nintendo, they're going to most likely check out Disneyland while they're down here. So it kind of, like you were saying, kind of rising tide lifts all ships, So I would imagine something similar would probably happen out there in Florida. The only thing, and you touched upon it, is that the only different dynamic is that there's not as much theme park stuff out here in California, obviously. So in Florida, there, like you were saying, there's only so much time and money people can actually spend on vacation, right? So when you have, 3 Universal parks and you have 4 Walt Disney World parks, people can't take like 2.5 weeks off of work, so they might have to make some decisions. Now, if people are making decisions, what's going to be the fall guy, so to speak, right? Is it going to be one of the Universal parks? Are families going to say, hey, you know what? We don't need to do Islands of Adventure this time. We'll do Epic and the studio thing, and then we'll do the Disney stuff. Or will it be the Disney stuff? Will it be Animal Kingdom? Because Animal Kingdom is really low on rides. That's my favorite park. I don't care about rides. I'm cool with the trees and just enjoying it. Awesome park, man. Awesome park. I love that park. But the normies, they like the rides. You know what I'm saying? So is Animal Kingdom going to take the hit? Because you're probably going to see Dino Land closed off by the time Epic opens. And so now you're cutting even more into Animal Kingdom and what to do. So it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing shakes out. If people do start making decisions on what to cut from their vacations, where are they going to cut? What do you think, George?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I feel like and we're going to see these resorts keep growing as time goes on. Eventually it's going to hit a threshold where people can only maybe do half the resort. Whether it's Disney or Universal, but that's what the enticing thing is for them to be able to come back. And it's like, okay, well, we did X, Y, and Z, but we didn't do A, B, and C. So it's like, we'll go down. And so that's the enticing. The more that you have, I feel like the mentality has to go back to the thing. It's like, let's not get everything in one trip at once, because at some point that's what it's going to be. It's going to be damn near impossible, so it'll definitely entice guests and visitors and families to say, you know what, we have something to look forward to, our next time around, whether it's in 2 years, whether it's in 5 years, we'll save, we'll set a goal, because then we have something to look forward to, and I think that's the mentality that these entertainment giant businesses are like looking at is into the future. Even with Disneyland, I personally feel like Disneyland Forward is designed for the notion to make Disneyland a vacation destination, not just for a place for locals to hang out. I think they want to have kind of a West Coast version of Walt Disney World. Not necessarily that it'll be on the big grand scope of how big Walt Disney World is, but allows people to say, you know what, I don't mind traveling cross country to stay a week and visit Disneyland, because I personally feel like in time there's going to be 3 gates, and of course with the expansion of Disneyland Park and DCA and maybe another hotel or two. It'll entice people to travel and, more importantly, stay. That's the main goal. You get people to stay on your property and spend money, then it's a win-win for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well said.
I 100% agree with George. And honestly, I think the correct answer is the product will speak for itself. If Disney World creates the product that people want to visit, they're not just going to stop visiting because Epic's open. They're going to go to the good product. Now, if Epic opens and Disney just keeps shitting themselves and Animal Kingdom only has 5 rides 4 years from now, well, again, then that park will probably be cannibalized from. They're going to, whatever the product is that's good, people will flock to that product. If a film is good, it's going to eventually get the numbers, whether on streaming or whatever. Like that. So the product will speak for itself. So I think the answer to the question, OG, is probably both. Yeah. People will probably stop going to Universal Studios Florida because that's probably the worst park right now. But people also might cut a Hollywood Studios day or an Animal Kingdom day. Like, it's going to be a little bit of both. The product is going to speak for itself. So I'm not really worried long term. But yeah, and even again to George's point with that, is this going to push Disney to bring back Magical Express or bring back some of those perks that kept people on property? Because that's how you make money. The whole point of Magical Express wasn't that it was, generating revenue. It was keeping people on property, so they were generating revenue through other means. So yeah, so things like Magical Express, Genie Plus versus Express Pass, those will be also key components in the debate of like, where's the product at?
Yeah, well said. Now, do you think, speaking of Magical Express, do you think they're ever going to bring something like that back? Or
I would be shocked if they didn't. And maybe I'm being biased because I really want it back. I didn't even really use it that much, but just knowing that you had it was just in your head. Just knowing.
I'm for sure. They're going to invest in $17 billion in Walt Disney World alone. I'm for sure they could find a small fraction of that
They have to, man. Even just charge like $10 and just add it to the freaking like package. No one will care. It's just the fact that you have to now go through mirrors and do all this other bullshit that no one wants to do. I'm blown away they don't have it. And I mean, it's making us, when we go, we stay DVC, but because there's no Magical Express, we then go pop over to Universal for a couple nights. I don't know if we would be doing that as much as we do if Magical Express was a thing. So yeah, they're missing the ball with that, in my opinion. Hopefully they bring it back.
Yeah, if we had Magical Express, I haven't talked to you about that. We went on a Florida trip in July, end of July, early August, and we land in Florida, right? I'm like, oh man, it's my first time in Florida. This is dope, dude. This is dope. I'm going outside afterward. I'm going outside. I'm checking out the humidity. I'm like just scoping everything out, and we didn't have Magical Express though. We're waiting for this rental car, right? And in the whole process, it got kind of crazy, So I'm trying to help our friend Mindy load the elevator with our freaking luggage, right? Floor was fucking wet, dude, and I slipped and I cracked my head open, right?
Whoa!
And I felt weird as I swore up and down, man. I thought I had a concussion or some brain damage or something. I felt weird.
Whoa.
So Mindy comes over to me and she's like, "Oh, gee, don't move," and that freaked me out even more. I'm like, "What do you mean, don't move? What's wrong with me?" And so all these strangers were coming up to me and like giving me like bottled water and stuff, like, and I was bleeding like crazy. Anyway,
the airport?
Yeah, we just landed. Like we weren't even there for like 2 hours yet.
His first time in Florida.
Florida hates you.
Yeah. Dude, it was rejecting it. It could sense the California, you know what I'm saying, dude? It was like, yeah, man. So ambulance came, they took me off, and thankfully, only minor brain damage, but I'll be fine now. No, I'm all good. I'm all good. I just had some stitches, like 5 stitches, and I continued the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
So you were in the hospital in Florida?
Yeah, the Lake Nona urgent care or something. And
was it themed?
No, not themed at all. Not themed at all. Yeah, it was crazy, man. But long story short, If we had Magical Express, that wouldn't have happened. So I blame Bob Chapek.
You could honestly sue Disney. You slipped because they didn't have Magical Express.
Exactly.
I'm surprised when they took him over to Lake Nona. I'm surprised he didn't see the several Imagineers that did agree to move over from California.
They were in the hospital too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I don't think we've canceled Shaun yet. So let's talk about some maintenance issues at Universal.
I'm ready.
Here we go. No, this is from let's see here. Universal Apex. So this is something that I've noticed since it opened. There's been some issues with the upkeep. It's not entirely It's not entirely a maintenance issue, in my opinion, though. We'll kind of get into that in a second. But we are seeing stuff like this kind of here and there, and things like breaking and stuff like that. George, I'll start with you. What do you think is going on with this? Does Universal need to dedicate more resources to maintaining the land, or is it more about the design of the land, which certain design choices have made it where it's harder to upkeep it, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's actually a little bit all of the above, to be honest with you. I feel like in the realm of Super Nintendo World and the Super Mario Brothers, it is very colorful. It is very bright. It's very vibrant. There's a lot of shininess to it, but unfortunately with normal wear and tear, this is the kind of stuff you get a lot of traction, people going in and out of the land at a time. And when you use these color palettes, it's going to be it's going to show the wear and tear. It's going to show the traction of guests going back and forth, which that's normal. You can't really necessarily control. My thing is, but when you start noticing that the guests are noticing it, you really should find a way to kind of maintain that. And that's the fear that I have with Universal Orlando getting this land, because the heat and the sun, the heat index is much hotter in Florida than it is in California.
And the rain over there, it's just like sideways rain, right?
Yes. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot more extra. So hopefully that they can kind of balance out of like knowing how to handle those issues, because they haven't really tackled that yet. However, Universal Orlando does know, from being in Florida, I'm for sure, they have a different set of operations than what California has. So I'm hoping they would know how to handle this a lot better. But for me, this really isn't an excuse to leave it like this. As I said, it's not Universal's fault that it gets like this, but you really should be taking care of the overall visuals.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's like kind of like a design issue more than necessarily like a maintenance issue per se, because when you go in there, right, you're designing this land and you're like, yeah, we're gonna have yellow flooring. It's like, that's gonna get dirty real fast. I mean, you can power wash that thing every single day, and by evening it's gonna look like this. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was more of a design issue as well, George, and more than a maintenance issue. They're probably maintaining this thing like they do with the other stuff, but this land is just showing it more because of the nature of the land. We see similar stuff in Toontown, to be fair, right? Like at Disneyland, Toontown is notorious for the fading and all that stuff, because it's a similar kind of dynamic with the bright colors and everything like that. So it ages worse. You have an attraction like Indiana Jones, and you don't have to wash that thing ever. It looks even cooler when it gets dirtier. You know what I'm saying? But what are your thoughts on this, Shaun?
No, yeah, I think you're 100% on it there, OG. In my opinion, I think it's the fact that Super Nintendo World and Toontown to a degree as well, to your point, they're built as video games. They're built as these fake worlds that we can see and they look perfect. Whereas Jurassic Park or Harry Potter, Wizarding World, or to your point, Adventureland, anything like that, this is completely normal wear and tear. I mean, this is something you'd see and go, right, because it's a lived-in area. They're human areas. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is already dark colors, and it's a lived-in environment. Adventureland, a lived-in. Frontierland, lived-in. Jurassic Park, lived-in. Harry Potter. So this is normal wear and tear. This is normal stuff. But when you build a fake, a video game world, which is kind of what Toontown is, and you have these colors, and you have this world that isn't supposed to feel lived in because it's a video game. They're not human characters. I think this is going to happen, and it's going to stick out way more. Whereas if you saw little footprints like that or scuff marks or anything like that in another land, you really don't think anything of it. Then you add the fact that it's so insanely interactive, which is also something with Toontown as well. Things are going to break because there's more interactive stuff. Indiana Jones has 7 broken effects because it started with 100 effects. Same with Rise of the Resistance. Right. When you have a basic dark ride like Peter Pan, yeah, there's not going to be any broken effects because it didn't really open with any crazy effects. So that's why I kind of don't really understand when people complain about like Rise, like something being in B mode. The ride has more effects than we've ever seen in 20 rides combined. So when you have interactive stuff like that in Super Nintendo World and Toontown, stuff's going to break and it's going to look worse, but that's just kind of how it is when you build a video game interactive world.
Yeah, well said. Now, have you been to Super Nintendo World out here yet, Shaun?
I have. I actually have only been once. I went last January, January 2023 for opening. I got an AP preview. And I was only there for like 2 hours because of the AP previews, and I low-key did not like it at all. I didn't dislike the land. I loved the land. I strongly disliked my experience there because it was so crowded, so hard to get anything done. But I think Toadstool Cafe is elite. I think the Mario Kart ride is above average. It's not amazing. I treat it as a dark ride. I don't even play the game, and then I love it. So overall, I love it. It's too cramped of a land, and like you said, OG. I went one of the opening weeks, and it kind of already looked dirty with broken effects. That's just kind of the nature of the land. So I like it. I love it actually, but it's got a lot of issues.
It's funny, Shaun, like going into that land, I was talking so much shit about Mario Kart. Like, oh man, come on. This racing ride that goes slow. This thing that's whack. And then I go on it and I get off of it. I'm like, dude, I fucking love that ride. I really liked it. And then George.
And then I walk in there and I'm like, this is Mario Kart. This is going to be freaking awesome. Like, this is going to be living the video game. And I walk on, I'm like, what a fucking snooze fest.
I'm right in the middle of you both.
You're right in the middle. Yeah.
I think as a game, it is borderline snooze fest. I mean, it's proprietary technology they don't really have down yet. But if you treat it as a dark ride, it's pretty damn elite in my opinion.
Shaun, I will say the physical props of the ride are amazing.
Yeah.
I think what they did wrong with Mario Kart is that there's so much going on at once.
Yeah.
That you have the AR going on, you have the physical sets, you're trying to turn your head to aim and shoot for something.
Take the AR goggles, George, throw them in the trash. You'll like the ride way more.
Yeah. I'm actually going to do that. It's like there are times where it's like I kept lifting like the goggles up, but yeah, I think honestly the next time I'm just not going to wear them all together.
Yeah, because it makes the ride confusing because you have to figure out what's going on. Then, like you said, George, you're like turning your head a bunch and there's the AR and there's so much going on. If you just scrap that or just ignore it, it's like a really impressive dark ride. So I know that's not what it was advertised for, so it kind of feels cheating, but I like it as a dark ride. I don't really like it as like a video game ride.
Like, and this is kind of bold, but I stand by it. I think that the physical sets are just every bit as good as cartoons been.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah. The queue is incredible. I mean, the queue is one of the best. I mean, one of the best in any attraction, any park, in my opinion. It's a great queue.
So what are your overall thoughts on Toadstool Cafe?
I think Toadstool Cafe is bomb, dude. I love themed food. I want everything themed. Like, I walk into it, like I was at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom the other day, and it's actually themed pretty well, but I like walked past like a random like trash can and I got mad because it wasn't themed. That's how like I love themed food, man. Like, making me feel like I'm eating something else. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking like food, but it's just really cute. Like the whole like queue before you go order is super cute. So I loved it a lot, but it's a freaking headache to even get in there. So that's obviously a con.
Yeah, I'm with you though on the themed food thing. Like, I've been saying for a long time they got to build, and they never will. But I would love to have an ink and paint club like bar, like a themed ink and paint club bar in Toontown.
That'd be incredible.
Animatronic octopus behind the bar. Be sick. But yeah, those themed and Disney does that stuff really well. Like Trader Sam's. They put a lot of money into those. Because they get a lot of money out of them. But
right.
So, but yeah, great conversation, guys. Shaun, it was great having you back, man. It's been way too long.
Absolutely. I don't think it's been as long as you thought, OG. You said a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure I was on like late 2023. But it's been at least 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, 6 months. Yeah. But we got to have you on more often, Shaun. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ranking the Mouse on everything: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. If there's a hot take on Twitter, it's probably by me. So, that's how you can find me. And hanging out in the parks, usually West Coast with George and OG. So you can find us there hanging out as well.
Awesome. So make sure you follow Ranking the Mouse all platforms. The Italiano, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media. We know where you are in real life. That's Carl Jr. But where are you on social media?
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. We talked about just about everything. everything. Tiana's, all that new footage, the music, Epic Universe, Super Nintendo World, everything we discussed. We would love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG 55.
Like Ice T, I'm OG. Like Ice T, I'm OG. Ice T, I'm OG. I'm demon like IT. Got more juice than High C.